Hey everybody, welcome to Love and Flow. This is a drip moment. I am your host, Kimberly McGhee, and we're so excited to have you all come in. So we're going to welcome everybody. I just want to make sure that we are good on coffee and collaboration. So I am engineering, hosting, doing it all today. So I just wanted to make sure everybody get a chance to share on your Facebook platform. Welcome to those on Facebook Live. Welcome to you all on YouTube. And I'm so excited today to have one of my very dear friends, Cheryl Stokes, is here today. Yay. So I want to make sure that we are ready for you guys. This is amazing drip. And so welcome Leap Day. This is our leap year. And I wanted to, before I get into the whole pleasantries of introducing Cheryl formally, I just want to give you guys some fun facts that I found out about leap year. One I knew because I'm half Irish is that this is the year, the day that women can actually propose to a man. I won't be doing it, but if you feel the need to ask, go ahead. I'm going to take a sip for that right now.
I'll take one with you.
Mm-hmm. I won't be indulging in that culture part of it, but the whole history behind a woman on leap day in the Irish culture is that women got tired of waiting, so they decided to take power and put things in their own hands and say, "Will you marry me? I'm not getting on my knees for nobody but God." Okay, that's it. Also, um, this is also the reason why we have a leap year, which is I thought was interesting, is because Julius Caesar decided we needed one based on his astrologist who came in and said, based on the solar system, we are missing a day, so they introduced the extra day to align with the sun. So thanks to Julius Caesar, we have leap day. And then on the 29th, there's a couple of things that happened. On the 29th in 1619 was the first trial of the Selman witch trials. Also, some pleasant things that happened is that our very own African American winner, Gone with the Wind, Hattie Daniels, won the Oscar for Gone with the Wind on February the 29th in 1944, which I thought was cool. And then, of course, Christopher Columbus, who actually raped and pillaged women and indigenous people, saw America for the first time on February 29th in 1493, actually. So there's some good and some bad things about leap year so here's, and we've kind of made it a little fun for leap year. People like, if you were born on this day, you get to celebrate your birthday every 4 years, which, hey, I would love it. So that would make me 42 years old instead of 55, possibly. So I would take that. But anyway, I am so glad to introduce one of my dear friends. And this month, we were really talking about inspiration. We are ending the month actually, with Black History and Heart Health Awareness. So, what better person, what more qualified human being that I could choose and am more gracious and more excited to have in my friend scope, in my pool of people, is my very own Cheryl Stokes, who is the CEO of CNEXT. She is a philanthropist, she is an activist, and she is a beast when it comes to game shows. You cannot mess with her. I have even played against her, and she will annihilate you. Don't mess with her. She does it on a professional scale. She's been on what, Jeopardy?
The Wheel of Fortune, Millionaire, and The Chase.
Oh, just those three.
Those three.
Just those three little shows, just those three. But yeah, and don't play with her at home because you'll walk away very sad.
It's not pretty. I'm sorry. I just love to win a game. That's all it boils down to.
Relentless. So, Cheryl folks, thank you so much for coming on the show and having this drip moment with us. So thank you again for coming.
Thank you, Kimberly. I am so happy to be here and excited for the conversation.
Yes. So we want to talk about Black history. We've got a lot to cover today, Heart Health and Black History Month. But one of the things I definitely want to talk about is because Cheryl has a vast range of corporate experience with being a woman of color. And we've been talking about this in women being our inspiration. Cheryl, who was your inspiration growing up? I know one person it was absolutely, which we
Yes, you
love her, our very own. But I'm gonna let you tell who she is.
do.
But
Yeah.
then outside of that, but who were the women that really inspired you?
Well, thank you, Kimberly. And of course, you do know one of my biggest inspirations is my mother, who has gone on to be with the Lord, but everybody affectionately called her Ma Bell. Her name
Yeah.
is Myrtle Bell. And, I think about it now. She was a working mother in the 60s when not all women worked. And I think from her, I just got the concept of, you know what, you can get out there, you can do it. First and foremost, a woman of great faith. And so, in my belief, and I know we share belief, Kimberly, and Christian belief, my mother rooted our family very deeply in our faith. And she was just known to be a lover, a prayer warrior, and a giver. And so she was an inspiration to me.
Mhm.
Secondly, my family generally, but I have an older sister who, Dorothy, lives in Chicago, and she is a lifelong learner. So at 88, going to be 81 this year, she still is working part-time. She
Mm.
has probably more more degrees and certifications than anybody I know. She's has studied and been certified in real estate. She's got a master's in mathematics and counseling. She's
Wow.
a guidance counselor. She was a teacher, and she was an investor before investing clubs were a thing. So, like in the early 70s, she and some
Wow.
friends began to invest, and on her teacher's salary, I mean, she basically became debt free early in her life. She's traveled to all 7 continents. She's been to more places than me, and I've traveled a lot, but she's traveled a lot more than me. So
Mhm.
she was an inspiration. So that's kind of, besides the immediate family. And then corporately, as I started to work, um, I studied engineering. I'm from Flint, Michigan. I went to General Motors Institute undergrad. There were women there as engineers who kind of showed me, we had the capacity to do this. But when I worked at Alcoa, which is the Aluminum Company of America, there was a woman, Teresa Knighton. She's a sorority sister of mine. Teresa's brilliant. She held 4 patents. I had never met a woman that held patents. She patented a process for developing the aluminum process. It's called electromagnetic casting, EMC. She patented that process for Alcoa. And that's basically what brings you the can sheet and some of the airplane sheet, the way that the aluminum is processed. And so just seeing a woman like her who could walk in that brilliance, who was a leader, it just let me know that there was a space for me. I had to just use what God gave me and connect myself with the right people.
I think that's an important community. It seems, I think, um, I feel like women of color, particularly Black women, is one of those things. I think we get a bad rap about being strategically vicious with one another when that's
Mm,
not necessarily, that's never been my story. I think the industry or the society has a way of misrepresenting Black women in terms of being non-supportive of one another. Because again, I have you, I have Janine, Lisa. I mean, I can go on and on. Kimberly Winborn, Kenya Thompson, like Deion Selby. Like I can go on. My pool is so rich with women of color, particularly Black women, and I am inspired by you and by others, my grandmother, my great grandmother, who were entrepreneurs and not even realizing what that word entrepreneur really was. I mean,
mhm,
they were just doers. And I think that is been one of the things I think in the culture with Black women, we're just doers. And I think that that is one of the things that has always been the backbone of Black women. They are just doers. They weren't necessarily looking for a title, didn't even have time to look for a title. They're just
mhm,
doing. And having the blessing to meet and be spend time with Mom Bell. If you guys knew her mother, what a gracious, like she was my inspiration. Like she was my muse. She was just a woman of poise and elegance in all shape, way, or form. And I just learned so much being under her. And I got a chance to minister for her. I think it was one of her last birthday
Her
parties.
80th birthday, we did a
80th
huge
birthday.
celebration.
Yeah. So I learned so much from her, just her graciousness and just being able to sit at her feet. I really feel like as a woman in corporate America, do you feel that that space is still there for women of color to come together and work together, and being supportive of one another and not be in competition?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I know we're going to talk later about the book chapter that's coming out, but I'm going to skip ahead to it. In writing a book with other women of color, I write about my experience in corporate America, and a framework that I put forward is, I've been blessed to progress in the way that I have because I, first of all, could imagine what was possible. So I had role models and people that gave me inspiration that, you can do something, like Teresa, whom I mentioned, and there's a Jewish woman that's my mentor and friend to this day, Judy Rosenblum. She took me under her wing. And so learning from other women, period. But Black women, we have the capacity to work together to help each other imagine, but then it's invest. So investing in
Mm,
yourself and learning new skills and capabilities and taking the time to really do the homework and find out, all right, if I want to get to this point in my career, what's the path I could take? Who are people who have been there? And then it's to inspire others, but also to inspire yourself, to have positive talk, affirmation that you can do it. And all of those three I's, I call them, come
mm,
with the idea of purpose. For me, to be successful in corporate does take a lot, right? When
mhm,
you're dealing with, I mean, I've been the only in so many settings around the world. I've been very blessed to work
mhm.
globally, and I've been in rooms where it's 39 white men and me, and white men who are multimillionaires, right? Who have a lot of perceived power. And so I had to be grounded in a greater purpose in order to really put that energy forward. And my personal purpose around leadership is that I believe the world needs exceptional leaders. In fact, society has a gap right now from traditional sources, government, public institutions, and businesses are uniquely poised to provide leadership in a way that helps not just their shareholders earn money, but that helps society. And so I had to be clear that my purpose in doing the work that I do was serving a greater purpose. And that kind of gives me energy. So
Mhm.
long, rambling answer, but I believe as Black women, if we can come together and help each other imagine and invest together and inspire each other and have that shared purpose or reinforce our purposes, that helps us move forward in a successful way.
I really okay. I really love that. One of the things I did moving forward in changing, which I know your philanthropy work, but how do we change that dynamics or that narrative where you're the only Black female in a room full of people who look like me? But how do we change that narrative? How do we make that shift?
Yeah, it's a great question, Kimberly, and it I think it requires, first of all, us to support each other in the way that we're talking about. So it's not a competition.
Mhm.
I'm a growth mindset kind of person. Like when you do well, that doesn't mean I'm going to do less well. I'm cheering you on, and I hope that you will cheer me on, and I'm going to cheer on the next. So there's the belief that we can do better, all of us together. And from a faith perspective, I believe what God does for you, he can do for me.
Mhm.
He's not limited. So I'm excited that when something great happens for, a sister, a woman of color, someone that, the same things could happen for me if that's what God has for me. Um,
Right.
Secondly, that idea of investing is really important, and in it investing and inspiring in other people. So I was fortunate when I was studying undergrad. There was a woman, actually an Indian woman, who was a couple years ahead of me. So she was like a senior when I was a sophomore. She took me under her wing. it was a cooperative education program, the school I went to. So you worked and then you went to school and did that for 5 years. She took me under her wing and she was like, look, Cheryl, let me tell you what you have to do to succeed. She was like, 'cause there's not a lot of brown women in this place. So we got to stick together. She told me that from the beginning. She kind of showed me the ropes. And so I felt, it was my job to show the next one the ropes, right? So there's that sort of coming together to support each other. And then when I went to Alcoa, um, I didn't realize at the time in the late 80s, they were having difficulty attracting and retaining STEM talent from underrepresented communities. And I remember getting there and having grown up in Michigan, I was used to a certain cultural dynamic. But when I moved to Southern Indiana, I kind of felt like I was stepping back in time a little bit. There was a real gap in terms of the races. And the people of color banded together and we formed, which I now know was an employee resource group. We called it the Support and Development Association. And we taught each other what we needed to know in terms of our jobs. Because some of us were in engineering, some were in finance, some were in operations. And so we helped each other understand how the business worked and how to be successful. So again, that idea of banding together, investing in yourself to take the time to learn, but investing in others to show them the ropes is incredibly helpful. So that's the things that we can do. I believe in, the business I'm in, we do leadership and executive development. I know organizations have a desire to unleash the potential of all talent. I mean, and it's not altruism. It's because as a matter of sustainability, we're going to be a majority minority country, the US, by I think it's 2045. So not long from now, people of color will be, combined the majority demographic. And so companies that are not positioned to have a robust and diverse set of leaders will be behind. And I mean, just think about it logically. Don't you want the best talent in the world? Don't you
Exactly.
want more than your fair share of talent? Well, look at the world. You need to look like the world in order to get it. And so organizations are investing and smart organizations sort of look at this lens of diversity and inclusion as being core to what they do as a business. Again, not for necessarily social justice, but for all of the decades of research that show you that more diverse and inclusive organizations outperform their competitors in the marketplace. McKinsey's been writing about this for decades. BCG has been writing about it for decades. So, what organization doesn't need more innovation, better quality decision making, better financial results? Those are things that have been proven with data to happen when you have a more diverse and inclusive workforce. And it just makes sense. Different people, different experiences bring different perspectives, different skills. You're able to have more creative solutions. And you can engage a broader set. So said a lot. Don't know if I answered your question, but
No, that was amazing. You guys see why she's my person of inspiration. That was awesome. And, just from a personal note, I've been able to tap into this resource throughout my relationship with her to bounce things off of. And she's such a great sounding board. So I just so appreciate you from that perspective, from a personal and a friendship. I adore you. So
same here.
there's not nobody in our group that doesn't adore her. She's just a massively amazing. But I think talking about change, one of the things that I love that you have just went in with such fervency and such resiliency is your relationship now with the American Heart Association. So I wanted to definitely take, because we are now in Heart Health Month. But what I learned working with you on your campaign, which I would love for you to definitely dive into that, was that it expands past February. And I was not aware of that until I started working with you in the American Heart Health Association. So let's talk about that. And it's the 100th year and the 20th anniversary of Go Red. So I wanted you to definitely take this time to talk about what your hopes are for the change, because you have really dived into this and really making this a personal campaign for yourself to change how people of color, particularly women, deal with their health.
Thank you. I am so passionate about it because number one, some people don't know, but heart-related diseases are the number one killer of women, all women, full
Mhm.
stop, more than all forms of cancer combined. Let that sink in. We hear a lot, and I am not minimizing breast cancer, different
Right.
cancers, because it's all horrible, right?
Mhm.
But in the reality, heart disease takes out more. A woman dies, I think it's every 80 seconds from a heart related disease. So, and it is worse for women of color. Now, let's think about that. Why? Well, some of it is historic health inequity, not having access to prenatal treatment sometimes, to proper health and diet. Culturally, we love things that aren't always good for us. And some of that was a matter of culture, and some of it was a matter of economics, and some of it is just a matter of preferences. Diseases like diabetes, uh, high blood pressure run very high in communities of color, particularly in Black communities. And for me personally, my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, died from stroke. I remember I was maybe, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old when she passed away. So I never really got to know her. My mother found out she was a diabetic at 35. She spent more than 50 years. And you knew my mom, Kimberly. She was not morbidly obese. She didn't like eat all the bad things, but it just genetically we were predisposed to diabetes, and she hadn't had whatever the proper foundation would have been early in her life to avoid it. So I saw her become legally blind because glaucoma took her vision as a result of diabetes. I saw her have 3 strokes, 3 pretty major strokes, because of the impact of high blood pressure and diabetes. And ultimately, she died from a combination of factors, even though God blessed us to have her for 89 years. But it was congestive heart failure, right? Because your heart just can't take all of that. And now it's really personal for me because, as you know, when I was pregnant, I have one biological son. I was an older mother. I didn't know that was kind of like a disease in itself. You're classified as advanced maternal age because of the risk, right? So I was almost 40 when my son was born.
Mhm.
And being morbidly obese at the time, I was, really a lot heavier than I am now. My blood pressure went out of control, and I had to go on bed rest. And my doctor, thank God for an African American OB-GYN, because she said, you know what, your job is to, she didn't say it this way, but you better sat down somewhere and
Mhm.
be a good house for that
Right.
baby to grow. That's pretty much what she told me. And I remember I was like, oh wait, can I work from home, like if I have my laptop? And she was like, all right, so here's your choice. You can do what I tell you to do at home, or I can put you in the hospital. Which one would you prefer? I was like, I'll pick home. Not working. And
Right.
ultimately, I'm sure she saved my life and the life of my child because, as you know, Kimberly, 4 days after my son was born, I was in the hospital with congestive heart failure.
Mhm.
I literally was fighting for my own life 4 days after he was born. And so that's where I had the wake up call. If you want to be here for this child that you just had, then you've got to make some changes in your own life. And listen, obesity has run in my family. I'm not fat shaming anybody, because listen, I've done pretty much anything you can do to lose weight, and will continue to do that to keep a healthy weight because it's so important to me critically. Um, but it's been a journey since 2005 when I had that. And, my heart function went way down. I had to see a cardiologist for a year. I still take um, a blood pressure pill that is healthy for your heart because that's just a permanent impact that I've had. So when I was approached about the Go Red for Women campaign for the American Heart Association, it was by an African American woman that I had met in business. She happened to be, she's fierce. You should get her on. Her name is Lynn Mason. I'm calling her out. She's a CEO
Okay, we're gonna have to get her on the show.
of a healthcare related firm.
Yes.
Lynn said, hey, Cheryl, I want you to join this campaign, the Work with the Heart Association. And I thought about it. I said, you know what? So many people in my life have had issues. My nephew, my sister Wilma, her son passed away of a heart attack in his early 30s. He had uncontrolled high blood pressure. He had a heart attack. He was not obese. He just had high blood pressure, which so many of us had. My oldest brother, Darnell Edward, died really as a complication of I think it's called a PEC, but it's basically when the electricity in your heart messes up. have a heart attack. And usually people don't recover from that. But God blessed him to recover from a very serious electrical heart thing. But he died 4 months later. So when I look at just in my own family, the trauma related to heart health and how many people were taken away too soon or had lives that weren't as fulfilling as they could have been because they were suffering from health, I thought, why wouldn't I do something to help raise awareness for my family and friends, for the community of color, because so often we just don't have the awareness of the challenges. And what I appreciate about the Heart Association is that they do a lot of work around health equity. They do work to advocate for healthy greenways and spaces and communities. They give healthy food to food pantries. They do things that really are working at the root causes of heart versus just, shoveling medicines onto people, which is what often could happen. So I'm very passionate. I could go on and on. I'm gonna stop talking. You can ask me another question about it or
Well,
whatever.
I really want you to share about your role with them because that was extremely impressive that you didn't just take the title and then just sit on it for 1 year. Like you have really embraced it with, like I said, fervency and just moved forward. And even I love the fact that you're willing to bring other women, Black women, but women of color, particularly Black women, along with you for this fight of representation and education and empowering us to not only understand and educate us, but then also understand that we need a place at the table to have a voice so that the American Heart Health Association, the American Heart Association can move forward in providing services to everyone. Because like you said, in the Black community, in other communities, and I can't speak about other communities because I didn't grow up as a Latino or Indian, but in the Black community, like you said, there are some cultural ways that we eat and we fellowship around food. That's a big. I think that's big. I think that's across the board.
Yeah.
But we don't eat a Mediterranean diet. That's for
No.
sure. So we're not eating Mediterranean diet.
No.
So I think I would love for you to just talk about your title with them because
Sure.
I'm very proud of you about that. And then your goal is to bring women along with you to have that place at the table and that conversation and representation.
Thank you. So Lynn, who I referenced at the time a few years ago, was the chairperson of the Go Red executive team. And so she asked me to join that team. And when you join that team, you're using your influence with corporations, with people to try to raise funds, to try to raise awareness, to get people engaged in sponsorship. And, I said, sure, I can do that because I think it's important. And then she said, there's this campaign called Woman of Impact, where, we ask certain leaders to run a 9-week campaign where you're raising funds, you're raising awareness, you're helping educate. And at the end of the day, the person, it's a little bit of a friendly competition. So and you said earlier about competition, right? So she
Right.
said the C word. I was like, what?
Very competitive, very competitive.
All right. So when she said it's a friendly competition, but it's for a great cause. And I thought about it. I guess this was 2022. So a couple years ago, I said, why wouldn't I do this? And there's no shame in my game. I'll ask anybody to donate money because all they can do is say no. And it's a really good cause. And so, yeah, as Kimberly knows, because she was part of my team, I went all in. I canvassed my neighborhood. I knocked on every door in my neighborhood with a QR code, donate money to the Heart Association. I had posters up in restaurants and stores and places where I frequented. And I also got them to donate money. I'm like, hey, I'm a great customer of yours. This is a great cause. Wegmans gave me a grant. I got money from other organizations. You led a heart healthy dance session. I had people donate and we learned some salsa moves and did heart healthy dance. And we had a doctor talk about cardiovascular health, particularly focusing on African-American women. And so I went all in because not just to win, although, it was a competition. So yeah, I wanted to win, but I went all in because it is such an important cause. And, unfortunately, women, but especially Black women, we will take care of everybody except for ourselves. Self care is not selfish. I know you've heard that. It's true. Self care is not selfish. It's if we want to be here and we need to be here, then we have got to take time to take care of ourselves. And then for me, over the years since 2005, it's become clear in my spiritual journey, I have a responsibility to steward the temple that God gave me. We all get one life to live.
Amen.
We have
Amen.
one life to live. And what was impressed on me was that, listen, being a good steward is not just about your money, it's not just about your time, it's about your temple as well. And now I'm by no means perfect. I still, will have a Dunkin' Donut or whatever, but I'm much more conscious. And at almost 58 now, yeah, yeah, 58 this year, I'll be 58.
Mhm.
I'm in the best health that I've been in my life as an adult, and I'm grateful to God for that.
Yeah.
And it does require intentionality, and I just want to encourage us. Listen, it's not about trying to lose weight or do this to be a certain size. Like I always said, I never wanted to be a size 0, but I had to have a mindset shift of this is about health and stewardship, and what I want to be is healthy. And in fact, as I look at, I'm in my home office and I've got these post-it notes that sit on my screen, and they are my reasons for living and maintaining a healthy lifestyle. And it says to take care of myself and live longer, Lord willing, to be an example, to be healthier, to look and feel better, to maintain a particular size range so that I'm an example and an encouragement for my family. I want my son to have his mother around as long as God allows me to be around. I want my grandchildren, because I used the G word, but I call them my little people. I have little
Right.
people. I have a lot
Right.
of people from my daughters, my stepdaughters who are adults and they have their own families. I want to be around, Lord willing, to see what they do. I want to be not just around, but I want to be active. And again, if I look at my sisters, and especially my sister Dorothy, who will be 81, who still, I think she just got back from Kenya or someplace. I don't know. She's always someplace. I want to be able to do that too, but I got to do my part. So,
Yeah.
and now
Mhm.
fast forward after the Woman of Impact, I'm still very active on the executive leadership team for the Go Red movement, but I'm also the chairperson of the Circle of Red for the Heart Association. That's an annual giving society where people donate $2,500 or more in a year. But it's not just about the money, though. We went to the Interfaith Food Shuttle. We packed healthy food bags for the elementary schools in the Durham school system. And you know me, it was a competition. We set a record. We packed like
Yeah.
720 in like 2 hours. I'm making a contest so I can, have fun with it.
Yeah.
But so it's beyond the the donation is important because the research is important. It takes money to do the research, and the research, including women and including women of color, is particularly important. And so as we can donate, that helps, but it's also doing those things in the community as well that I find really important. So that's why I'm still, very active, and Lord willing, will be for quite a long time.
Well, I want to tell you thank you so much for being such a great pillar of representation in all fields that you're in, but particularly that one, because I think we need more representation. And then also, thank you for pushing us. Some of your friends, she'd be dragging us. We'd be like,
I
okay,
know. I was like,
girl,
come on, Kimberly, woman of impact. You can do
yeah, the woman of impact. And even I did one, and it's even with her church, like they called me and we had such a great time, Shirley. It was amazing. The ladies had a great, even though you were traveling, but we just had a blast. And I was able to like really educate them, and we talked about movement and things that they could take and do at home. And even with you, like even for myself, I've lost 20 pounds and continually trying to lose more weight. And again, it's not about the numbers, but just, Lisa Avery, for those who know, she's one of my very dear friends and my besties. And, we're always sharing like, girl, we got to keep this going. Or did you know? And we stay on top of each other. We try to stay accountable to make sure that we stay healthy and be mindful of those things and be a representation of good health to our young girls. As we start to close and move forward, what are some of the things that you would encourage women of color, either in the corporate field or with their health? What is something you would like to impart to just encourage us to be better at whatever we do, whatever that is?
Well, thank you. In the corporate field, I would say don't underestimate your ability. One thing I learned, and I was really privileged when I worked. I was chief of staff for an officer at a global company. I won't say where. And as chief of staff, I got the opportunity to help with the hiring and the building of the team. And what I remember when I was being hired, a friend kept saying, Cheryl, you should ask for this much money. And I was like, ooh, that's a lot. I only make this much. So in my mind, I was thinking, I can do this or that. Um, when I was doing the hiring, I saw people who didn't have the same qualifications I had, but they came in and they asked for a whole lot more. I
Mm-hmm.
saw it, and I hate to say it, but gender wise, men will ask. And there's research that shows that generally women, and especially women of color, we will believe that we've got to have 120% of whatever qualifications before we apply for something or before we will have an opportunity. Whereas the man, if he's got 20%, he's going for it.
Mm-hmm.
So my first piece of advice is go for it. Do your homework. Understand what the requirement is. Don't underestimate your capability, and where you have gaps, put a plan together to learn and do it. Reach out to sisters and people around you. Find a mentor. And guess what? That mentor doesn't always need to look like you. In fact, I would advise you to have mentors who look like you and who don't look like you. I've been very blessed to have people of all races and ethnicities that I can count as mentors in my life, and I've learned a tremendous amount. And so, don't limit your circle. Go for it. That would be the corporate advice. And again, imagine what's possible. Do the homework. Make a goal. Do a vision board. Whatever you have to do. Invest in closing gaps. Invest in relationships. Super critical. Networking. I know people are like, oh, networking, and they kind of feel like it's a dirty thing. No, it's actually how business is done.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of data that shows if typically new opportunities don't come from somebody in your network, it's somebody who's a friend of one of your friends, so to speak. So second order network connections is the technical term for it. So build a broad and diverse network, all walks of life, different areas, and devote time to understanding and getting to know the people, not just trying to see what you could use them for. But when you understand and build relationships with people, then the natural opportunities come. Inspire, inspire yourself with those positive affirmations, but inspire others by your story. And then think about purpose. If you don't have a personal purpose, I highly advise you to write one, to think about it, to pray about it. Because I know I've got my God-given purpose that I believe, and I have my leadership purpose, which is my sort of corporate, and they're very connected. Because purpose is what's going to give you the energy, and purpose helps you make choices too. Because sometimes we just got to say no. If it's off purpose, it's easier to say no. So that's the corporate thing. Health-wise, take care of yourself. That's the best thing that we can do. Kimberly, are you still there? I see just me. I'm just checking. Okay.
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm just letting people tune in just to you and not me.
Okay. I was like, oh no, did I
No,
lose
just
her?
you, just you, just your solo.
Thank you. Yeah. So, yeah. And on the health perspective, the American Heart Association has a fantastic tools and information. I highly encourage you to go to their website. There's something called Life's Essential 8, which are kind of 8 practices with tips that help you live a longer, healthier life. I very much believe in their mission to help everyone live longer, healthier lives. And so use those resources, get involved. And to your point, Kimberly, get in motion. Exercise doesn't have to be a chore. Find something you like and do it. If it's walking, if it's cycling, if it's dancing, roller skating, do something, because we know heart health is so assisted by movement. My husband was kind enough for Christmas. He bought me an Apple Watch. I had a Fitbit forever, right? I was like, I'm fine. I don't need anything else. But he's like, no, you should get this. What I like about the Apple Watches is, they had a little rings. They're like, oh, you didn't close your rings today. And for me, it triggers that competitive. Oh, I closed my rings yesterday. I need to close my
Right.
rings today. So to understand yourself and do what you have to do to get yourself going, because it's worth it. You want to be around for the people you love, and they want you around. So that's what I would say.
Well, so now you all see why she's my person of inspiration. You are just an amazing person and a human being, and I'm so grateful and blessed to have you in my life again. And what's next for you as we're ending the month? Oh, and I definitely, just so people will know, that Go Red does go past February.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. You can be involved with the Heart Association all year round. The Heart Ball in the Raleigh Durham area is later in March. There's a Go Red Evening Gala in May, where the new Woman of Impact and Teen of Impact will be recognized. There's usually a Heart Walk or a series of Heart Walks that happen in the fall. There's the Leader of Impact campaign, which is like the Woman of Impact. That's in the fall. So there's a calendar of things. There are ways to get involved. You can go to the Heart Association website wherever you're located and say, I want to get involved. And
Yes.
absolutely, they will reach out to you. And I just encourage you to do it because
Yeah.
it's a fantastic organization. It really is.
Yes, and hopefully we can share some of those. I'll get some of the information from Shirley, like the ball and things. I think that those are just great avenues. I think that's a great way to start too, Shirley, is to get involved from that perspective, is to get your feet wet and start meeting people and really find out how you can be a key player in this game of becoming more heart aware and more healthy aware. I always say that self care is not selfish; it's survival.
That's right.
So I think we're in survival mode, particularly women. And Shirley and I talked about this off screen. Women of color, we are historically always putting ourselves last, from being everything to everybody and nobody to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So it is so important for us to make sure we put ourselves first and foremost. But Cheryl, we are now going to be moving into March, which is International Women or Women's Month. So what's next for you in March? What's coming up?
Oh, thank you for asking. So, well, tonight on this area, as a close to Black History Month, WRAL will be showing a piece where they interviewed me about maternal heart health. Because my story of having congestive heart failure. So if you're in the Raleigh Durham area, 5:45, you'll see me on WRAL. But for International Women's Day, which is March 8th, I'm actually part of an anthology, a book of stories by, I think there are 29 of us, women from all walks of life. Another CEO, there are professors, there are millennials, there are activists, there are healthcare people, community people, but it's 3 generations of Black and Latina women who are sharing our stories of how we have evolved and how we are now thriving in our lives. It's called Our Stories Belong in History. It is available for pre-order now, the book. It will come out on International Women's Day. And I tell you, I've personally been inspired by the women I've met through this writing process and their stories. And I know if you purchase that book, you will absolutely be blessed and inspired by their stories.
Yeah, I'm so looking forward to reading it. So it's on my purchase list, and we'll definitely share it on the platform for International Women's Month. It's going to be amazing. Well, thank you so much. This has been an amazing drip moment. And Cheryl, thank you again. Applause, applause for coming on the show at a 2 o'clock hour to spend time with me. And I really appreciate your time, guys. Thank you so much. I want to give a shout out to Lisa and Jay Dwayne Garnett. I saw them pop in. So thank you all so much for coming at this lunchtime and to share this drip moment with us. And shout out to my co-host, Kimberly Winborn, the visionary, and then Kenya Thompson, my co-host. Thank you all so much for just allowing me to be part of this team. So take care. God bless. And we will see you guys next time. This is Love and Flow. This is a drip moment. And remember, let love flow. We'll see you all next time. God bless.
Thank you. God bless.